discussing the deuce. Former Governor Doug Ducey endorsing former President Trump and former TV anchor Kari Lake. I can't say she's a former politician. She's never won anything.
She's
Former
campaigner.
Oh, there you go. That's pretty. Former candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Current candidate.
Mm-hmm.
So the deuce has come out in what I suggest is probably an AI written tweet and said, "I'm stepping up for MAGA," which seems to go counter to everything he did when he was governor. He was more establishment. Fair to say?
Yes.
Okay.
Very fair to say. I would say he was more on the conservative end of things, not more traditional MAGA.
Wait, he was more traditional, not MAGA.
More on the traditional conservative end of things.
Okay, got you.
Than traditional MAGA.
Okay, all right. Yeah, that's not confusing.
But I know words and me.
Good.
Not always goodly coming out of my.
You speak good for living, yes.
I try.
Well.
You said, though, you don't think he necessarily believes what he tweets.
No.
At least in this case.
I don't.
Not just you don't think he necessarily believes, you don't think he's actually going to, in fact, do this? That he won't actually vote for former President Trump and Kari Lake?
No.
Well, why would he say it then?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Well, how about you give me an answer over there, smart guy?
All right. So what I think he's doing is he's signaling.
Signaling.
Mm-hmm. He wants back. He wants back in the ring.
So why wouldn't he just get back in himself? Why didn't he take on Kari Lake?
I think the bad blood, and he wanted to allow for this MAGA wave to sort of dissipate a little bit. Look, Kari Lake crushed Mark Lamb, right, in the primary.
10+%, yeah.
All right, pretty landslidey-ish, okay? 15, 16 points, whatever it was. I mean, that's a lot. Right?
Yes.
So the deuce, what's he going to do? Is he going to spend this time trying to fundraise so that he can go up against MAGA? Nah. What he's doing is he's letting Kari Lake lose again. Okay? He's letting Kari Lake lose again. And he's also hedging a little bit by saying, I support Trump. Now, here's the advantage to doing that. By coming out and what Trump will view as being a mea culpa, if Trump wins the election, he'll say, Deuce, I got a job for you. Might not be a cabinet position, could be an ambassadorship, whatever it is. It'll get him out there, and it'll continue to get him in front of donors, fundraisers, get his name, get some quotes from him. He's in the political world, okay? And if Trump doesn't win, what he's done is he's sent a signal to Republicans that, hey, listen, MAGA's over. Kari Lake has now lost 3 times. Trump has now lost twice and never won the popular vote. MAGA doesn't work. Because I got to tell you, if Trump and Kari Lake don't win.
This would be number 2 for Kari Lake as well as 2 for Trump.
Governor, senator, and this would be number 3.
This is number 2, senator. Number 2, governor, senator.
No, she ran for Senate before.
Governor before.
Oh, maybe I'm confusing them. Anyway.
Your point stands. It would be 2 for each of them or.
Yeah. Okay. So if this is the case.
Yep.
At some point, the Republican Party is going to have to consider, is the populist MAGA movement doing more harm than good? And if you keep losing elections, the answer is yes.
Doesn't it?
As a party. And remember, the party is in control.
Let's circle back to Ducey for a second here, though. So, again, his tweet that he put out yesterday says, I'm going to vote for Kari Lake. I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. I'm voting Republican up and down the ballot. Red, red, red. Okay.
Yeah.
You're a Republican, kind of get some of that, but you also went up against MAGA, Governor Ducey. What are you doing here?
Yeah.
I would ask you, okay, you think he's setting himself up for a run for A, what? And B, isn't that difficult for him to pull off, taking time away from office? In this case, it would be, 4 years? So he's taking years away, trying to set himself up for a run down the road.
Yeah.
We forget things that happened 24 hours ago.
Yeah.
And we're going to sit there and be like, you know what, Governor Ducey, this guy.
Well, I'm standing here and telling you that he's letting things breathe a little bit because the brand of conservatism right now is not his brand of conservatism, but he's not getting away. So he wants to let it breathe. He wants for MAGA to run its course.
Secretly hopes they lose.
Yeah, kind of.
Well, otherwise he's got no job.
Well, he's not going to have a job anyway. I mean, if they win, look, Kelly wasn't chosen as a VP, so there's not going to be anything in 2 years, right? There's not going to be a Senate race anyway in 2 years. there could be in 4 years that he may be trying to set himself up for Kelly's seat. Okay, so what he's doing is he's letting MAGA win or lose.
So you think he's interested in Senate?
That's yeah. I mean, that seems like the obvious thing because I mean, if you're a governor, where else do you go other than I suppose you could run for president? But again, that would be 4 years down the road, and he'd be up against what in the primaries? DeSantis. I don't think Abbott's going to run, but maybe somebody out of Texas or some of these others.
Why do we assume when we think about Congress that he would be so interested in a Senate seat but not a House seat?
Prestige. House seats are not considered to be nearly as prestigious as the Senate and, of course, obviously, the presidency. I think when you're in the House, you're one of 435.
And you also have to run every 2 years.
You're always campaigning, right? When you're in the Senate, you get a little bit of statesmanship experience.
Do you know what he's been up to since he... his time as governor ended?
Look, somebody had to develop the cotton candy burrito for the Diamondbacks. Have we looked into whether Ducey was involved in that? He's got a bit of a confectioner past. It's kind of brilliant if he did. No, I think that there's more to this. I don't think that he's voting for Trump and Lake. I think he would rather abstain than vote for either one of those. That's just my gut. I could be totally wrong. He might be completely honest. But I'm reading into this as there was no reason for him to put out this information. No reason for it. This was unsolicited an endorsement, right? Nobody said, Deuce, you got to come out and help us out here in Arizona. This is a swing state. We got to have your help. Nobody said that.
But does MAGA sit there and go, hey, he's on our side now. We're cool with him?
I think that I think he's banking on MAGA not being around. And I think when MAGA loses influence, and it's got a lot of influence right now, certainly in the primaries, if Trump and Lake don't win in Arizona, MAGA is really going to be up against the ropes in Arizona.
It'd be strike two for them at the very least. So
yeah,
do they get a third crack at it, or is it donezo?
Well, let's also remember, too, it's not just strike two, but that would
It'd actually be strike three, 2020, 2022, 2024.
3 straight elections.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Good point.
So if that's the case, the Arizona party is going to have to take a real good hard look at what direction are we going in. Because right now, the Trump-Lake MAGA direction is not working. In fact, the only place where it is working is in races where you had multiple MAGA candidates running against each other. Masters and Hamadeh, right? Okay, so if that's the case, Deuce is basically setting himself up to say, look, hey, MAGA, I've always liked you.
That was a little Biden there. That was pretty good.
MAGA, I've always been a big fan of yours. Look, the election stuff, that's so far in the past. Don't worry about that. You're a good Republican. I'm a good Republican. You loved me for 8 years as governor. You loved me when I was the treasurer. Why don't we rekindle our romance and you send me to Washington as a senator? Or why don't we rekindle our romance and you back me in my run for president in 28? Whatever. Right?
Yeah.
This is what I'm seeing because there is no reason for him to take this risk. This is a risk, mind you, because now he has tepidly hitched a wagon to MAGA. And if MAGA fails, people will say, Deuce, you were backing them.
You also kind of sold out because at one point you were against them. Now you're saying you're for them.
Right. But he also gave himself an escape hatch saying this is such an important election and I'm a Republican and I have to support the Republicans and I'm terrified of what Harris is going to do.
Only if they lose did he give himself the escape hatch.
But if they win, I was endearing myself to you. Just in August, I sent out a tweet saying how endeared I was.
So then he's hoping for, like you said, a cabinet level position.
Yeah. Look, he's
could be nothing.
He's
we
smart.
know Trump holds a grudge.
He's playing politics, right? That's it. But suppose Trump loses this election, and let's say he loses some of his court cases following the election, too. Don't forget that's in there. All of a sudden, it's going to look like the Trump-tanic to Republicans. And they're going to go, he hit an iceberg. And that we're not going down with this ship. We're looking for a lifeboat. And they're going to say, Ducey is an electable person. And he said he didn't hate us. So he's our lifeboat right now. Deuce is trying to position himself as both the lifeboat for the Trump-tanic and also the engine for the Trump-tanic.
He still strikes me as more of a VP than a top-of-the-ticket guy, but I like your theory in terms of what he's trying to do. Threading that needle, though, taking time away, not easy to do.
Well, where do they find their VPs so often, though? It's one of the other people that were candidates in the primaries,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So why don't you run a primary, do a good job, end up in the top 3 or 4, and suddenly you become a candidate for VP.
Right.
For President Vance.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe, and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.